Hello, my name is Bob. Welcome to a short stop on pool. A month or so ago I had a poll asking which of 3 racks you most wanted to see me review, and we've done the other 2, so this week we're going to do rack number 1 from that list. I'm shooting at the headrail end of the table because that's where I can locate my camera the best. And this morning there was no house music playing, so we get to hear some pool sounds in this week's rack of the week. So let's get to the rack. I've left myself possibly one of the most difficult break shots there is. It's a high break ball, and the cue ball's pretty far away with a pretty sharp inside angle. On this shot I want to use a little bit above center, not necessarily a follow stroke, but I'm just focusing on making the ball. This is 100% pocket the ball and just accept whatever happens to the cue ball. There's a trick to making this shot, and it's called practice. Just set aside some time every couple of weeks or so, spend an hour shooting just this shot at different pocket speed to the left and to the right. This shot doesn't come up much in 8-ball and 9-ball. You've got to set aside time to practice it in just this way. Watch the cue ball. It's headed directly for a scratch in that stripe safety. You know, as human beings, we tend to focus on the negative quite often, and we look at when we get a bad roll on the pool table. Well, you've got to recognize when you get a good roll, which I just did, and accept it, because it's going to happen as well. And guess what? Good rolls happen about as often as bad rolls. To start this rack, I only have 2 shot choices, the dart ball close to the cue ball and the 14. And I go to the 14 right away. Obviously, you know, a low angle going into the rack area balls. I'm hoping that that's going to improve my situation. And it doesn't. It sends the 7-ball up table and it ties up with the 11. And at this point, one of the regulars in the pool hall talks to me about my camera. Real nice guy. I've known him for probably the whole 40 years that I've been playing pool, and we talk about pool technique and strategy all the time. Anyway, that gives me a second to do a little bit of rack analysis. Obviously, those 2 balls up table that are tied up are a problem that I have to deal with. So right now, I'm looking for a way to get there. The rack area balls aren't very clustered. I should be able to deal with those pretty easily. And the 15 ball looks like a good break ball. So right now, the main focus is going for those 2 balls. As you saw, I shot the 1 ball, and I used the 1 ball to get a low angle on the 4, that dart ball along the rail. My hope was I'd be able to send the cue ball up table and open up those 2, and then have the stripe on the lower left as an insurance ball. But that's a really small target. As it is, it looks like I could, if I hit the rail below the side pocket, I'm going to miss them. Yeah, see, I'm looking at that now. If I hit the rail above the side pocket, I've got a real good chance of hitting them and scratching or having a difficult shot. So I decide not to open those balls right now. Instead, I'm going to come back to center table and reevaluate. Okay, this is good. It doesn't take long to evaluate what to do from here. I've got 2 shots. I could shoot the 6 ball and go off the side rail towards those 2. I feel like that's a low percentage shot. I could also scratch off the 11 ball. Or I could shoot the 9 ball, and I consider if it's possible to send the cue ball up into those 2 balls off from the 9. And I don't think it's going to make it past the rack. So this is a really common straight pool shot, cutting a ball in the corner and coming into the back of balls that are in the rack area. And of course I've got the 5 balls of insurance ball right there. Okay, that worked out really well. Now my main focus is getting those 2 balls up table open. The 15 is still a good break ball. I'm not thinking about the key ball or K2 ball right now. I've got to deal with those 2 tied up balls. I could shoot the 2 ball and try and go into them right now, but that's fraught with all kinds of danger. That's a missable shot. I'm fortunate that the 3 ball has landed on the rail and it passes that stripe. So I've got 2 insurance balls. So the obvious shot is this 13 in the side, and it's hard to tell the angle from this video, but I'm nearly straight. In fact, I've got to cheat the pocket a little bit to get the cue ball to go towards those tied up balls. That's going to be hard to control. So I consider sending the cue ball to the rail and into the back of those balls. And that's probably okay, but I was a little bit nervous about it for the reason I mentioned earlier, the possible scratch and controlling the ball. You see me check out the angle there. Then what I realize is that I don't need to break them out right at this moment. I could roll the cue ball forward and get behind those balls, and I still have my insurance balls to shoot next. But if I land just right, I'll have a shot on one of those balls in the side pocket. Now that shot is very controllable and low risk. And as you can see, it worked out perfectly. Now I can just roll the 7 ball in the side pocket. The strike ball is going to stop the cue ball. I'll probably have a shot on it. And if I don't, I'll have a shot on one of my insurance balls. That worked out great. So now I consider this rack solved. And I have 7 balls left. So that's real typical. Half of the balls left after all the problems are dealt with. And that's a good situation. So I have lots of options for my end pattern. So now I'm liking the 2 ball as my key ball for the 15 ball break shot. And so I look diagonal from the 2 ball. Either the 3 or that stripe on the lower left is a great K2 ball to get on the 2 just right. I'm sure I'm going to start with the 13 ball, and that leaves just 3 balls, the 6, 8, and the 5, that need to be removed before I get to my K2 ball. And those 3 balls surround the break shot, so I need to take a little bit of care to make sure that I can go from one to the next. So that's what you're looking for, is a transition that leads easily from one ball to the next. So the pattern I see looking at this video a few weeks after I played the rack is, why don't I shoot the 13 in the side, follow forward for the 6. The 6 leads naturally to the 8, which is right on the 5, and then from the 5 I can come up to shoot the 3 and the other stripe, and I'm on my key ball. I don't shoot that, and it's because I have too much angle on that 13. That's going to leave me a long way away from the 6 ball. So what I see instead is I can draw the cue ball to the head rail, shoot the 3, use the 5 ball to get on the 6, and then I go from the 6 to the 8 to the stripe to my key ball. Those all look like simple, controllable shots. Let's see how this plan works. Uh-oh, I'm straight in on the 3, so now I can't shoot at the bottom of the cue ball when I pocket the 5, so I can't get on the 6. This is a really good example of how misplaying your position on one shot doesn't affect just the next shot. It can affect the next 2 to 3 shots. And this situation happens a lot in 9 ball. And that's why proper cue ball position is so important. So one alternative would be to simply shoot a stop shot on the 3 and then just roll forward when I shoot the 5 and shoot the 6 in the upper corner pocket. Instead, I'm not alarmed at this point. I'm not married to that original pattern. I think I have plenty of options to get on the 2 ball, even if it's a less traditional way. So I'm going to shoot a stop shot on the 3 and then shoot that stripe in the lower left and play position for the 6 and the 5 at the same time. Now that shot looks really good on paper, and most of the time when you play it, it'll turn out just fine. But the reason why us straight pool players prefer shots that have minimal cue ball movement is because sometimes it doesn't quite work out just like you thought. I overcooked that shot by just a little bit, but that's all it takes. And I'm really fortunate that I'm able to see the 8 ball here, because if I couldn't, I would be left with shooting the 2 ball in the upper left, and that's just a lot more difficulty than we want to take on in an end pattern. So as you can see, I'm able to shoot the 8 and get on the 6. Now given this angle from the 6, I'm just going to slide over between the 2 and my break shot to get on the 5. To get on the 2 key ball, I know I've talked about this shot in recent weeks. You don't want to go one rail and just try and float the cue ball up. Use 2 rails and you can play the cue ball right into the shot line of that 2 ball for a foolproof key ball. It's so tempting for a fast player like me to just bend over and shoot that 2 ball, but I'm proud of myself for walking over and taking a look. You really need to do that on every single key ball. You should do it on every shot, but every single key ball for sure, just to make sure you get the cue ball just right. So instead of having an outside angle, I gave myself an inside angle, and that's going to be easier to open the rack. This break shot is very similar to the one that started the rack, except I'm closer to it. Same thing with the cue ball, a little bit above center, and as you can see, this time it backed up and then came forward. I didn't have to overpower that shot, and I've got a great start to the next rack. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found that informative and helpful. If you did, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. Check out my book, A Short Stop on Straight Pool. You can find it at shortstoponpool.com. And stay tuned for next week's Rack of the Week.